Kedvach Shvatov. We are going to finish the 8th parak today. It's Hashem. We are on Pei Beis Amud Aleph by the 2 dots. Here we go. Okay, so I know many of you have been a little bit troubled by all the bathroom talk, for lack of better words, and you're not the only one, as we're about to see, who has been troubled by this. So Amalei Rav Huna Rabba B'rei. Rav Huna turns to Rabba, his son, and he says, "My time alo shchichas kamed Rav Chisda." What's the reason that you don't go learn by Rav Chisda? De mechaden an shmaite. His teachings are very sharp. In other words, Rav Huna turns to his son Rabba. He says, Rav Chisda is living in our area. He gives these shiurim all the time. Why don't you go to shiurim? He has so much to say, so many brilliant ideas. Amalei, Rabba replies. He says, "My azil ligabe. Why should I go to him? Dechi azil ligabe. Whenever I go to him, mostly b'mila de alma. He sits me down and tells me like mundane things. Things are not Torah. Like, why would I go? Amrli, he told me, for example, Mand a person who goes to the bathroom, lo leis behedya, should not sit down forcefully. Below litrach tvein, don't strain too much, like don't push too hard. Because the rectum sits with literally three teeth, but what that means, like the three muscles which kind of sit together like teeth, okay, like they rest on each other, because you might go ahead and dislocate one of the teeth, one of the muscles. You're going to get in a dangerous situation. So that's what Rabbah says to his father, Rav Huna. He says, why would I go to him? He's just teaching me like bathroom laws and like biology. Like, what in the world? Amrle, Rav Huna says to him, he is talking about things that impact the lives of people. You're saying he's talking about mundane things? Are you crazy? You should for sure go to him. In other words, he's teaching you things about how to save your life, how to live. There's nothing more fundamental in Judaism than life itself. And therefore he's saying to him, he says, yes, it seems like we're talking about these silly things, these mundane things, but it's ultimately giving a person life. Why would you not go? And therefore he encourages his son to go back to the shir of Rav Chisda. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to discussing different materials and you have two different types of materials in front of you. Which one should you use on Shabbos? Okay, the different ways of understanding this. We're going to go with the approach of this specifically about Shabbos. Person that has a stone and a shard. Rav Huna says, you should clean yourself with the stone and not clean yourself with the shard. That's what we've seen until now, right? Because what we saw is that the stone, even though the stone is normally muksa and the shard is not muksa, but at the end of the day, a stone is not going to cause any potential harm because it's not sharp, and therefore the Chachamim waive the laws of muksa and said you can use the stone. Rav Chisda disagrees though. Rav Chisda says you should use the shard even though you could potentially hurt yourself, but it's better since it's not muksa. Shard has a function, it's not muksa. Okay, Meisvei, we challenge this approach about the one who says the stone, because we have a brayso which says you have a stone or a shard and a shard in front of you. You should use the shard and not use the stone. To Rav Huna, this would seem to disprove Rav Huna. So Tagmar Rav from Bar Papa Kamed Rav Chisda leave it Rav Huna be'ognei chelim. We're talking about the broken off rims of utensils. In other words, like this: the machlokas between Rav Huna and Rav Chisda was about a case where a person had a sharp shard and a smooth stone, and they're arguing what should you do. On the one hand, the smooth stone is less dangerous, but it's normally muksa. At the same time, the shard is potentially dangerous, but it is sharp, right? And it could hurt you. So which one is more important? That's what they're arguing about. Then we have this brayso which seems to say that you got to go with the earthenware, right? Which seems to be a question on Rav Huna. But the way Rav Huna answers this is that think about how is a shard made? A pottery shard is made. You have a piece of pottery, it falls on the floor, and it breaks into pieces. Now most of those pieces are going to be sharp, but the top of the jug that broke is rounded. It's a rim. And therefore, that brayso that said you have a stone or a shard, and it says use the shard, we're talking about a case where it's rounded and therefore it's not dangerous. And of course, in that case, you should use the shard because the shard is A, it's not dangerous, and B, it's not muksa. That would certainly be better than using a stone where the Chacham had to waive the rules of muksa for you to use it. Okay. Let's say a person has stone and grass. One says use the stone and not the grass. You should use the grass and not the stone. We're talking about grass which is still attached to the ground. And the concern, of course, is that the grass might be torn out. But we're saying one says use the grass, it's still better, it's still attached, and it's not, there's no issue, it's not muksa. The other one says better to use the stone. However, we have a challenge on the approach that says use the grass. Meisvei, or should let this go. If a person cleans himself with a substance that is flammable, shinav hatachtonos noshros, the lower teeth will fall out. This brayso seems to be saying that using grass is not allowed because grass is flammable. The Gemara says lo kasha balachin. The brayso which says you can use grass, talking about moist grass, habiyavation. The brayso which says that you can't use grass is talking about dry grass. Now, why can't you use a substance which is flammable when it comes to cleaning oneself. What's the reason behind this? So the approach, the way it's understood by many is that there is an issue of kshafim, of sorcery, of witchcraft, that is going to be utilized, which is going to, which could cause harm, and specifically things which are flammable, they're more susceptible to witchcraft. Okay, and therefore the poskim do point out. The Aruch HaShulchan says nowadays we don't really have to deal with witchcraft, and therefore we don't have to worry about this. Right? This is very relevant to you and me because we are dealing with, we have the items that we use to clean ourselves are toilet paper. Toilet paper is about as flammable as it gets, but since we don't have to worry about witchcraft, therefore it's mutter to there's no question about it. We're allowed to use toilet paper. Okay, what I'm thinking about, I'm going to share is that it's hard for us to wrap our head around witchcraft and things like this, but to keep in mind, they were very sensitive, as you saw from earlier discussions earlier about the things that are going to be entering into one's orifices, right? That basically the things have to be clean. They can't be, you can't use someone else's, or there's a concern of witchcraft, and therefore we have to make sure that we're not going to use certain things. There's a lot of things which, while they're described as witchcraft, I would point out that they're, without weighing into a big machlokes between the Rambam and Ramban about the existence of witchcraft, there's a byproduct over here, which is that there is a hygiene level which was completely unheard of in that era, and for 2,000 years, really, until a little while ago. And we have, a society of people who are washing their hands in tilas time. Yes, there's a ruach ra, and they are being very sensitive to what they're using to clean themselves, etc., etc. And granted, their focus is witchcraft and bad spirits, but the bottom line is there's an incredible byproduct of the fact that there is hygiene and there's cleanliness and they're staying away from germs, etc., which is a bracha. It's just an incredible thing, and it's all coming out of this, coming out of these gemaras. Okay, and basically, as Rav Chisda told, Rav Huna told his son, these laws are saving people's lives. Okay, and we're going to see some more halachos, which as we'll see are very, very relevant and very much affirmed by modern medicine. Okay, and if a person needs to go to the restroom and they do not relieve himself, Rav Chisda Rav Yina Chadam Ruach Rush Letisba, one says foul breath will take hold of him. In other words, going to impact your breath. The other one says perspirational odor. In other words, they have a bad smell. Okay. One brisa is taught like the one who says that it's bad odor. The brisa says, a person needs to relieve himself, and they eat without relieving themselves, which is a really bad idea. It's like using an oven that was heated up over its ashes. What does that mean? If you recall from an earlier discussion, when they wanted to extinguish the coals, what they would do is they'd put ashes on it. The ashes would cause the coals to extinguish. Now, if you want to go and use the oven again, what do? You shovel out the coals, you shovel out the ashes, and then you start again. Now, what a fool does, a lazy fool, basically goes ahead and says, I don't want to do that, as they put coals on top of the coals and ashes, and it ends up not being a very strong oven. It's a mess. It doesn't work very well. And that's the same, it's similar when a person goes ahead and does not fully relieve themselves, and then they go ahead and they eat. It's extremely dangerous, and that's the bottom line. The bottom line is it's not a good idea to hold on to waste. If you need the bathroom, you should relieve yourself. And similarly, if you need the restroom, you certainly should not be eating at that time. Okay? We didn't finish the brisa. Sorry. And the brisa concludes, this is the beginning of perspirational odor. In other words, this brisa does go like the second opinion, which said that when a person does not relieve themselves, it's the beginning of bad odor. Okay, person needs to go to the bathroom and they're not able to do so. So what do? And now he's learned it's so important, but let's say it's stuck, it's not working. A person should squat, stand up, sit down. It's going to cause movement in their stomach. Rav Chanan min Harda, and you should go to the sides. In other words, keep on, try to relieve yourself over here, and then try to relieve yourself over here. Similar idea, you're moving, and that helps. You should manipulate yourself in that area, in the rectal opening with a stone. The Rabbanan say, another idea, you should remove your mind from it. Now, fine, these are all different ideas. The idea of moving around is certainly something which, is a well-established idea that is a way to help a person relieve himself. But the last idea of remove your mind from it, that seems like a very strange thing. If you don't think about it, that's not going to help, right? In other words, this happens sometimes. You're driving on I'm driving my children, and they need the bathroom. As soon as we pass by like an exit with the bathroom, now I need the bathroom, right? So they have to hold on for another, 20 minutes. So what do you tell them? Don't think about it, right? We distract them. We tell them stories, whatever it is, right? Because distracting actually prevents you from going. Now it's over here. It's saying that you should distract yourself. That's going to help a person relieve themselves. What's going on? So Gemara says, no. You should remove your mind from other things and focus on relieving oneself, and then it will happen. Amar Yomi Difti. Okay, I saw a certain Arab who stood up and sat down, until the waste, the excrement, poured out of his body like a pot being emptied. Okay, so it's a very effective type of tool. Tanarbana. A person is about to go to a big meal, and need to relieve themselves before they eat. The person should go 10 times 4 amos. In other words, 4 amos is about 8 feet. You should walk 8 feet, and then walk 8 feet. Do this 10 times, back and forth, and then that'll loosen one's bowels, and they'll be able to relieve themselves. The others say no, walk 10 amos 4 times. Okay, same type of idea. And then relieve themselves, go and sit in your place. Fine. And that's the end of that Gemara. One last Mishnah discussing the measurements of things that cannot be carried, or if you carry it, you are going to be chayav v'chatas. Last product that we're going to be discussing is cheres. Person takes out earthenware. How much earthenware? We'll say 3 different opinions. If a person is stacking like pieces of wood, so you want to put something in between the pieces of wood so that they don't push down on each other. So you put a piece of cheres, a piece of earthenware in between. Rabbi Yehuda. That's the view of Rabbi Yehuda. It's a small piece of earthenware. Fine. Rabbi Omer, enough to pick up a fire from it. Let's say you have, back in the day, what do? You have a hearth, and you have some little fire, and you want to go ahead and take a coal and move it somewhere else. So you have you take a piece of earthenware, you pick up a coal, and you move it. Okay, Rabbi Yossi, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yossi says it's enough to hold a revius of liquid. A revius is about 3-point-something ounces. Amra Meir says, Al Pi She'ein Raya L'Davar Zeich L'Davar. Meir, the one who says enough to pick up a fire, says even though I don't have a proof, I have an illusion. An illusion that what? Again, what are they arguing about? What they're arguing about is, what is the normal function of a shard? Right? That's been the discussion of these Mishnayos throughout, and that is all these Gemaras, that the item that makes you chai v'chatas, if you carry a substantial amount. If you carry less than a substantial amount, you still are not allowed to do it, but you'll not be chai v'chatas, right? So if you carry like a tissue is a substantial thing. If I carry like a piece of a tissue, tiny piece of a tissue, it's insubstantial, and therefore I can't do it, but I'm not going to be chai v'chatas. So that's what we're arguing about. What's the normative usage of a piece of earthenware? So what's the proof or the illusion? Because the pasuk in Yeshaya says he's talking about the destruction of Yerushalayim, and he says there'll be not found among its pieces a shard with which to pick up fire from the hearth. So you see from that pasuk that it's saying you're not going to have a shard even to pick up a piece of fire from the hearth. That sounds like, what's the normal thing you do with a shard? Pick up fire from the hearth. Rav Yossi, who says picking up Ravius, responds to him. He says, Misham Rai, you're bringing me a proof in that pasuk? Read the end of the pasuk. What does the end of the pasuk say? The lachsof ma'imi geve. Or to scoop up water from a hole. So you see the same pasuk which says you use the shard to pick up a coal. And the same pasuk says scoop up water. So that pasuk's not a proof to anyone. Okay. Says the Gemara, Mistaber Shura de Rav Yossi Nafish. Its logic would tell you that the measurement of Rav Yossi is the largest. Rav Yossi says it has to hold a revius. That's 3.1 ounces. That's certainly larger than a coal, right? And it has to also hold water, so it has to be like rounded, right? Whereas Rav Meir just has a coal. So it sounds like, logically would tell you, Rav Yossi is much larger. Umikra Shura de Rav Meir Nafish. However, from the pasuk, the way the pasuk's structured, it sounds like Rav Meir's portion is larger. Why? If you want to tell me that Rav Yossi, who says the water is the larger portion, the larger measurement, then Yeshaya's curse doesn't make sense. What's Yeshaya saying? Yeshaya is saying you're not going to even have a shard to pick up fire, nor are you going to have not even to pick up water. Now, if water is larger, then you put water first. You say, I'm not going to have the bigger thing, I'm not even going to have the smaller thing. That sounds like a curse. I'm saying, you're not going to have enough money to buy yourself a hot dog, you're not even going to have enough money to buy a gumball, right? Is that a good? Yeah, whatever. You're not going to have enough money to buy a sandwich, you're not going to have enough money to buy a gumball, right? So you say the bigger thing, then you say the smaller thing. So on the one hand, Rav Yossi, it sounds like holding a revius is much larger than holding a coal. And at the same time, in the pasuk, the first curse is the coal shard, and the next curse is the revius. It sounds like the Navi's going backwards. What's going on? He says, yeah, Rameir wasn't talking about taking a coal from a small fire. He's talking about from a big bonfire. Okay, if you have a big bonfire, no one's going to the big bonfire right up to it and taking a coal. You have to have something which has a long piece, right? And then you go into the coal. Now it makes sense, right? So now, yeah, it's true. Rameir's measurement is actually larger than Rav Yossi. Rameir was talking about using a shard for getting something from a bonfire, which is not a huge shard, but a larger piece of shard. And then Rav Yossi came along and said, and then Rav Yossi's opinion was saying Ravius, which is smaller than, seemingly smaller than Rameir's portion, Rameir's measurements, which is a shard that's going to be used for a bonfire. Okay, now the last thing we're going to analyze, Rav Yossi Omer Misham Raya. Rav Yossi pointed out to Rameir, what kind of proof are you bringing me? The same pasuk concludes with talking about using this thing for water. Shaper Karmalei Rav Yossi Rameir. Rav Yossi has a good answer to Rameir. Right? Because the pasuk seems to say that even a utensil that holds water is useful, right? So what was Rameir thinking? So Rameir Lomi Baikam. Rameir understands the curse to be as follows: Lomi Bayim midid chashal inshi lo l'shtakach, alafilu midid lo chashal inshi lo l'shtakach le. Not only what Yeshaya was trying to say was this. Yeshaya was saying, not only are you going to not have a shard that's functional, okay, meaning the normal function, which is to scoop up a coal, you're not even have a shard which will not be for a normal function, i.e. to scoop up water. In other words, the premise of Rav Yossi's rebuttal to Rameir's proof was, what do you mean? That the prophet Yeshaya also says that that the shards are not going to be found for water. Seemingly, water is a normal usage. Rameir says no. What Yeshaya was saying is you're not going to have a shard to use for a normal function, i.e. to pick up a coal. You're not even going to have a shard to do bizarre, not normal functions, i.e. to pick up water, and therefore the pasuk, with at least the way Rameir is learning it, is a proof. We have concluded the 8th parak, and we're going to begin the 9th parak, God willing, tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.